Okay, so Marvel just confirmed they're coming back to San Diego Comic-Con in 2026. And honestly, this is a bigger deal than most people are treating it. Because this isn't just a panel announcement. This is Marvel planting a flag and saying, we're ready. And after everything the MCU has been through over the last 2, 3 years, the delays, the criticism, the reshuffling, they need this moment to land perfectly. No pressure, right? Let's talk about what's actually going on here, what we can realistically expect from Hall H, and why this particular Comic-Con appearance might be one of the most important things Marvel Studios does in 2026. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Marvel skipped SDCC 2025 entirely, and that raised a lot of eyebrows. People were frustrated. Fans were confused. But when you step back and actually think about the timing, it makes complete sense. Avengers, Doomsday was deep in production. Reshoots were happening. Robert Downey Jr. was back on set as Doctor Doom, which is still kind of wild to say out loud. And the Russo brothers were essentially rebuilding an entire event film from the ground up in terms of scope and ambition. The last thing Marvel needed was to walk into Hall H in the middle of all that and make promises they couldn't keep, or worse, reveal something before they were ready to control the narrative. Marvel is extraordinarily good at one thing: managing the reveal. They know that a half-baked announcement does more damage than silence. We've seen what happens when hype outpaces the actual product, and Marvel learned those lessons the hard way during the Multiverse Saga's rockier phases. So, skipping 2025 wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Think of it like a chess player pulling back a piece before making a decisive move. They were repositioning. Now, if you've never experienced a Marvel Hall H presentation, either in person or through the live reactions online, you might underestimate what it actually means culturally. Hall H holds around 6,000 people. 6,000 of the most passionate, well-informed fans on the planet, packed into one room. And whatever Marvel shows them gets amplified to millions within hours. The Hall H announcements for Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame are still talked about. The moment they revealed the Infinity War title card, the way the crowd erupted, those moments become part of the mythology of the MCU itself. They aren't just marketing, they're events. And Marvel knows that. Kevin Feige knows that. When they step back onto that stage in 2026, they're not just showing footage. They're making a statement about where the MCU stands and where it's going. The optics of returning to SDCC after a year away, with Doomsday presumably locked or very close to locked. That's a power move that what are we actually hoping to see from Doomsday at SDCC? Let's be realistic here, because fan expectations tend to spiral. The most likely scenario is a proper theatrical trailer, something more substantial than what we've seen so far. We're talking full story context, maybe our first real look at the Avengers lineup responding to Doom, and hopefully some emotional weight behind it. The Russo brothers have said this film is going to feel grounded and personal in a way that some of the recent MCU entries haven't, and I think that's the tone they'll lean into at the panel. What's interesting here is the Doctor Doom angle. Victor Von Doom is not Thanos. He doesn't want to erase half of all life. His motivations are far more complex, arguably more terrifying, because they come from a place of ego and conviction rather than twisted idealism. If the trailer communicates that complexity, if we see Doom as a genuine intellectual and physical threat rather than just another CGI villain, that's going to change the conversation around this film overnight. There are also casting rumors swirling about which heroes will actually show up. The surviving roster from Endgame is fractured. Some characters are in legal limbo. Others have been, let's say, narratively retired. The question of who actually assembles in Doomsday is one of the most genuinely exciting mysteries Marvel has going right now, and SDCC might be where they start peeling that back. Now, Avengers: Secret Wars. This is the one. This is the film that is supposed to be the culmination of everything since Endgame. Every variant, every sacred timeline, every multiversal thread, it all theoretically collapses into this. The source material is extraordinary. The 1984 and 2015 comic runs are both foundational Marvel stories. And the concept of Battle World, this patchwork planet made from fragments of destroyed universes ruled over by a godlike figure, is the kind of thing that, done correctly, could make Endgame look like a warm-up act. I don't think Marvel reveals much about Secret Wars at SDCC 2026. Maybe a title card, maybe a release date confirmation, maybe a brief tease at the end of the Doomsday panel that sends the internet into full meltdown mode. But the actual substance of Secret Wars will be held close to the chest for a long time. That film is still 2 or 3 years away, and Marvel will not want to dilute the Doomsday moment by shifting attention forward too quickly. What they might do, though, and this is where it gets really interesting, is use the panel to reframe our understanding of what Secret Wars actually means for the MCU going forward. Because here's the thing a lot of people don't want to fully confront. There's a very real chance Secret Wars functions as a soft reboot for the entire franchise. And Marvel may start signaling that more openly after Doomsday. The Multiverse Saga has been messy. There's no other word for it. Some entries have been genuinely great. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man, No Way Home, Loki, but the connective tissue hasn't always held. There are storylines that were introduced and then quietly abandoned. Characters who appeared and disappeared. The sacred timeline logic gets more tangled the closer you look at it. Secret Wars, if Marvel handles it right, gives them a narrative in universe justification to streamline the canon, retire certain corners of the multiverse, and relaunch with a cleaner foundation. That's not a betrayal of what came before. It's actually the smartest thing they could do structurally. Fans are probably expecting Secret Wars to be an everything and the kitchen sink culmination event. But Marvel might be doing something different, using it to subtract rather than just add, collapsing the multiverse into one definitive timeline going forward. That would be a bold move. And it would explain why Feige has been deliberately vague about what the post-Secret Wars MCU actually looks like. Now let's talk about the stuff that will genuinely break the internet if it happens at SDCC. Returning character confirmations. Because here's where it gets wild. The multiverse as a concept opens the door to anyone. Any version of any character from any timeline. And Marvel has been playing this long game where certain fan-favorite characters have been conspicuously absent from announcements. That absence feels intentional. There are X-Men connections to explore now that the Fox deal has been fully absorbed. There's the question of certain legacy heroes whose actors have aged or expressed interest in coming back for one last run. There's the matter of what exactly happened to some characters post-Endgame who just haven't shown up anywhere meaningful since. SDCC would be the perfect venue for a surprise casting reveal or a mid-panel appearance that nobody saw coming. Marvel has done this before. They love the spectacle of it, and Hall H is built for exactly that kind of moment. Whether it's a new face taking on a classic mantle or a genuinely unexpected return, the panel almost certainly has something in that territory. There's also the awkward conversation around projects that have been delayed, restructured, or gone radio silent. Blade has been in development hell for years at this point. Multiple writer changes, a reported tonal overhaul. Mahershala Ali is still attached, and he is genuinely one of the best actors working today. But the longer that film stays quiet, the more you start to wonder whether it's going to emerge in any recognizable form. SDCC would be a good place to either officially relaunch Blade with a new direction and real momentum, or quietly fold it into the post-Secret Wars era. Either way, fans deserve some clarity. Armor Wars is another one. The transition from a Disney Plus series to a theatrical film raised questions that still haven't been fully answered publicly. Don Cheadle as Rhodey deserves a proper showcase, and if Marvel is serious about that project, now is the time to show it. If these projects are still alive in any meaningful way, SDCC is where you'd want to reassert their existence. And if they're not, well, Marvel silence at the panel will speak just as loudly. Let's zoom out for a second, because I think the larger context here is really important. Marvel is in a rebuilding phase, not a collapse. Let's be clear about that. These are still some of the most widely watched properties on the planet. But the cultural dominance they had between 2018 and 2022 has genuinely softened. The discourse around the MCU shifted. People started asking harder questions about quality, about oversaturation, about whether every Disney Plus series was actually necessary. And Kevin Feige has acknowledged this. at least indirectly. The slate has been tightened. Certain projects have been quietly shelved. There's a visible effort to return to the model that made Phase 1 and Phase 2 so effective. Fewer, more deliberate entries that each feel like genuine events rather than content obligations. Doomsday is Marvel's bet that they can recapture that feeling. And SDCC is where they make their case to the people who matter most. The fans who've been patient, sometimes frustrated, but still invested. Walking into Hall H and delivering a presentation that genuinely excites people, not just obligates them to keep watching. That's the challenge. Here's where I land on all of this. Marvel returning to San Diego Comic-Con in 2026 is not just a scheduled appearance. It's a statement of confidence. It says, Avengers, Doomsday is ready to be seen. The story is coherent. The vision is clear. Come with us. Whether they fully deliver on that statement, whether the footage lands, whether the panel has those genuine Hall H moments that echo for years, we'll find out when it happens. But the fact that they're going at all, after a year of silence and strategic restraint, tells me that whatever they're building toward is close enough to show. And that's genuinely exciting. The Multiverse Saga has had its stumbles. But if Doomsday and Secret Wars stick the landing, none of that will matter in the long run. People remember the ending. And Marvel is finally, after years of setup and table setting, approaching the ending. I'll be watching every second of that Hall H panel. And honestly, so will you.